who's here, and also to shed the stress of the Monday, whether you're working or family or whatever, so that we can be all focused on today's discussions. I'm going to invite you to think about how your body is positioned in your chair. Be a little bit more relaxed. Put your hands on your legs with your hands facing upward. Or if you have handles on your chairs in the audience, you can put the handles. I invite you to take in a deep breath, counting to 4. Exhale on 5. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Turn your head side to side. See some tension there. I've had a lot of tension today. A rough weekend. Roll it around, take one final breath. And exhale. So just to remind everybody, we're all here to do the best for our community, whether we're elected or here to make comment or on city staff. We're all here in the same boat, rowing together, trying to improve our community, and I just appreciate everybody's participation. And so with that, I'm going to invite you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mr. Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
James. Leaks May.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Polika.
Here.
Piana.
Here. Can someone pass a excuse?
I move that we excuse Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem James from tonight's meeting for personal reasons.
Support.
Right. All right. Next is approval. We need to vote on the. You already did that. I'm sorry. Told you it was a rough weekend, folks. All right. We're moving on to the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Polika and supported by Leaks May.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right. We have 2 presentations tonight for our presentation section, and the first one is 4A, which is No Mo May Resolution Consideration presented by the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission. And who is here from the FESC tonight who is going to give it? And that is our Claire Dion, our Zero Waste Coordinator
Yes,
from the
it's Claire.
city.
It is.
On behalf of FESC, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, so it is me, Claire Dion, the Zero Waste Program Coordinator. I am here on behalf of the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission this evening. As a member of the commission could not be present, but as the staff liaison to the group, I will help share their voice, the voice of the group, to present the consideration of a No Mo May resolution. All right. So on an icy day like today, I'm sure we're not thinking about springtime quite as much, but I'm definitely dreaming of the day of green grass and springtime flowers, so this comes at good timing. All right, so this evening I'm just going to begin with a quick overview of what is No Mo May. So No Mo May is a conservation initiative that was started by Bee City USA. You can see their logo in the bottom left corner of the slide here, and it's really gained popularity with municipalities across the US over the last few years. And the initiative encourages residents of a city to either stop mowing their lawns or mow less frequently during the month of May to support our pollinators by creating habitats and providing resources for both bees and other early season pollinators. Because of course, living in an urban area, an urban environment, floral resources tend to be a little bit more limited. So in an urban area such as ours, this initiative could be really positive in terms of supporting our pollinators, which do a great job of supporting our local food systems, and they've got many other benefits as well. Speaking of benefits, I kind of grouped these into 3 different categories here because, of course, we just talked about the pollinator habitat where we're able to, delay our mowing to increase the early season flowers that could provide food for pollinators. But there's other benefits as well, like climate action benefits, such as reducing emissions from a fossil fuel-based lawnmower, or reducing compaction of soil on your lawn from your lawnmower that would help to allow greater infiltration of your stormwater so that you don't have as much standing water on your lawn. And of course, it also provides the benefit of time, allowing property owners that might be interested in something like a planned natural landscape. They would have a little bit more time throughout the month of May to plan that landscape and maybe plant some more native wildflowers or native plants throughout their yard. So on behalf of the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission, they have a few recommended actions. The first being to adopt a No Mow May resolution to help support the city's goals of sustainability and resilience, which would in tune suspend enforcement of long grass rules during the month of May, which would allow property owners to either delay or reduce their lawn cutting, the frequency of their lawn cutting throughout that month. And then the code enforcement for grass and weeds would resume on June 1st. And here is a few examples of how the commission envisions participation for a program like this. They really would like to focus on 3 different aspects of communication, registration, and education. So they envision that participating residents could register their properties online with the city to help the city gauge interest in the program, as well as send a nice friendly reminder towards the end of the month to remember, or to remind them to mow their lawns as the enforcement would begin again on June 1st. They envision having yard signs available to let the community know of the program and help assisting the education of curious neighbors that might be interested in what's going on with a long yard, as well as, of course, that residents who participate would not receive notices from code enforcement for the month of May only, and it would begin again on June 1st. So that's really all I have for you this evening. Thank you for your time and consideration. Just to close up here, I have 2 kind of examples of signage that have been used from other cities in the past. And if this resolution were to pass by you council this evening, then communications and I would be excited to design a lawn sign of our own to help property owners and anyone throughout the city display to participate in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Are there any questions from council on this presentation?
No questions.
Would you like to make a comment?
I would love to make a comment.
Please do.
So this is something that our residents asked for last year, and we tried to push it, but really thought better of it. And I commend you, Joe, for taking a step back and really pulling this back in and starting to think about it operationally, so that it can be successful and not cause issues with other neighbors. It is such a small but powerful positive step within the community. And I really think that the Environmental Sustainability Commission added a tremendous amount in terms of just what we need to think about, how we need to implement this to make sure that everybody can be comfortable with this. So I'm very pleased with it. Great work to the team. Great work to you, Claire.
Thank you.
If I may, through the chair?
Sure.
And also, great work to you, Councilmember Mikulski.
I know that we ran a little bit out of time last year before this, residents wanted it. So thanks for returning it and being thoughtful about it and communicating. I know residents get very upset when people don't mow their lawn. So I think this strikes the right balance of trying to educate, but also keep, mindful of people who don't want to do it as well.
Absolutely.
So, all right, well, thank you for your presentation. And we are passing the resolution, I believe, on the consent agenda.
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Thanks, Claire. All right, so now we are moving on to our second presentation, 4B, which is the Wilson Park Improvement Project presentation. And I'm really excited by this one. See what's coming. And introducing this tonight is our Parks and Rec Director, Lorena Wheeler.
Good evening. I'm just trying to find, here we go. I think I got it. Nope. The presentation button, I apologize. Oh, maybe that's it. All right, sorry about that. It disappeared, but we're going to move on. Well, thank you for having me. I'm here to present the 2023 Wilson Park Improvement Project. It's been a long time coming. Here's what Wilson Park looks like now. As you can see, there's not any accessible paths. We have a playground structure, we have restrooms, we have a dog park, and we have a picnic area over on the northeast side. And then we have a couple concrete paths that aren't being used right now, and then a parking lot. So we went from what Wilson Park looks today and have come up with this park improvement plan and design, which includes all the things that were lacking but needs to be in our parks and our park system, such as the ADA accessible path throughout the park, as well as a lot of landscaping, tree canopy, improvements to our play structure, shade structures, and parking lots. We didn't get here overnight. We actually had a lot of community engagement to get us to this design, which started back in 2018. Unfortunately, at that time, we didn't have any funding, but we did have community workshops. And from then to now, we continue to plan for Wilson Park. We had our 2022 master plan update that also included several surveys to our residents, design meetings, and we also had meetings through the high school to our youth that gave us some great feedback on what they wanted in the park to help us come up with that design. There were two designs that were presented that were also presented in the master plan, Design A and Design B, and due to funding, we decided to go with Design B. Both of them were very close, so it wasn't any major changes as far as amenities that were going into the parks, but it's more so budget related on why we went with Design B. So the plan that you saw is the overall plan. However, again, due to limited funding that we have so far, we are planning to put in our scope items, our base park improvement items, which are those items that must go into the park for the grants. And that includes our ADA walking path, the basketball court, field improvements. We're going to expand the parking lot and include additional ADA parking spaces and van accessible spaces. new play equipment, shade structure, some landscape improvements, as well as amenities such as drinking fountain, benches, picnic tables, trash and recycling bins. As I mentioned, there were some things that weren't included in that base improvement scope that I just mentioned because of the funding. However, as we plan to go out to bid for this, which will be very soon, we are putting alternates within our bid document. So if we can afford or if bids come lower than what we anticipate, we can add those back into the project. So what I've done is I prioritized what we think those alternates should be, which alternates should be funded first, if we are able to put it back in there or have additional funding. So bid alternate number 6 is to install an under drain system throughout the park. Unfortunately, all the parks on the east side of the city have very poor drainage. It's a lot of clay soil, so when it rains, light rain or heavy rain, the ponding water would just stay there, days, sometimes over a week. So it's a lot of poor drainage. Like I mentioned, ponding water, you can see a great example in these photos here, especially by the play area, which limits the park use. So really, these amenities in the park are inoperable during any rain event or after a rain event. And then in addition to that, because of the ponding water, it can also cause potential damage to our improvements that we plan on putting in there. Last year we had to replace the walking path through Martin Road Park because it was crumbling, and then the ponding water and the conditions at the park kind of exacerbated those paths, and it became an emergency to replace. So we want to prevent that and make sure that we have a park that can be used all the time, even after rain events. And again, this is one of our priority level ones, so we would want that to happen first. And the preliminary estimate is approximately $14,000 for the under drain system throughout the park. Our second priority, which is almost as important or is as important as the under drainage, is safety. All right. So, and that includes alternates 2 and 3, which are basically installing lights in the park. So currently, if you look at the blue ovals, that's where we have some existing lighting. To the left, the blue oval is right by the concrete pad where it used to be an inline skating rink, and there's a light pole there. Up at the top in the middle where you see the other blue oval, that's where the restroom is, and there's an exterior light on the restroom. And currently, that's all the lights that are in the park. However, there is some ambient light from the street that does illuminate into the park that provides some light, but not enough that it's considered safe, you know, the minimum that needs to be in the park. So after speaking with our public safety and the Smith group who put the plan together, we did put an alternate in here for additional lighting, and we think at a minimum to achieve what we need to have this park be more visible and safe would be 2 light poles. One at the parking lot, and then the second one to the right by the dog park. And that's one of the #1 member requests for our dog park members. What they want to see in our dog park is a light as well. So we'll kind of knock out 2 things at once: safety and to make sure that they can use the park in the wintertime when the park closes, when it gets dark at 6 and the park doesn't close until 10 p.m. So again, this is priority level 2. So for right now, 1 pole, which is the parking lot, is $12,000 in addition as part of the alternate, and then the dog park estimate for that pole is about $15,000. The next alternate, which would be bid alternate number 3 in the priority level, is the strolling garden. You see that at the northwest corners in the light blue oval of the diagram. And right now that's basically provides a naturalized area where we can have passive use, whether it's reading a book or just taking a stroll or just relaxing in that space. That was one of the most favorable amenities that came out of the survey that people liked in the designs was the naturalization and to have a strolling garden. In addition, the northwest corner gets a lot of water. I'm hearing stories where kids go out and swim and ice skate in that area when it's cold enough. So that strolling garden will also have some environmental benefits to help drain the water in that area. And the estimate for that strolling garden is $29,000. And then to the east side, you'll see the long oval here, which is another bid alternate, which is bid alternate 1 in the plan that was attached to this agenda item, is another walking path. Now, this path is ADA accessible, but it will provide just additional entry points and accessibility routes through the park. Again, this is 4, but, you know, it'll be nice to have it, if not in this phase, in the next phase. But we want to consider that as well. And then lastly, the other scope item was safety surfacing in our playground area, which is like a rubberized safety surfacing. Currently, we use engineered wood fiber, which is ADA accessible. This one isn't high on our priority list, and it's about $35,000 to put rubberized surfacing in a playground. But if for some reason, you know, we were able to accommodate that, that would be the last priority on the list. So what are we looking at money-wise? So we had the Smith Group create a preliminary budget estimate. We won't have the numbers until we actually put this out for bid, but we wanted to make sure we had some idea on what these amenities would cost so we're not overreaching. And this, especially for today's market. And so for the base items that I mentioned above, earlier, the project construction would be about $409,000. For the alternates, 1 through 4 would be $156,000. And then for our consultant fees, it's $45,500. So the overall total without contingency, including the project alternates, if we were to include all of them, would be $611,000. Normally, when we do a construction project, we also have construction management to oversee the construction for whatever consultant we select through the bid process. And at that time, we don't have a price for it. As of right now, we don't have a price for that. So we've been pretty busy over the last couple of years trying to secure funding for this project. We've gotten 4 grants so far, $141,000 from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, $100,000 from Oakland County, $45,000 from the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, and $25,000 from American Bloom, which totals about $311,000 in grant funding. As a match for our MDNR grant, we are committed to put $141,000 from the general fund that was approved, which brings our total project funding to $452,000. So what are our next steps? So our next steps are to, 1, finalize the bid documents, and then submit them to MDNR for approval. Once we do that, we can publish the bid, and then following that, we'll get council approval of the bid and the consultant that we select, which includes, including if you want to approve additional bid alternates, if it happens to be above budget, and as well as construction management if we decide to move forward with oversight. Following that, we'll have our kickoff meeting with the contractor, and then start construction, which is planned for late spring. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? No? Thank you for the update. I'm really excited about these changes that are coming.
Thank you. All right.
All right. So that ends our presentation section, and now we're going to move on to call to audience. And we set aside 30 minutes at this time and invite people up to talk anything that's on their mind on and off the agenda. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and we have this very large mindfulness clock here that staff will turn on when you start talking. And we ask you also to follow our discourse with dignity guidelines, which is being respectful to others in the room, as well understanding that sometimes this might be someone's first time coming to do public comment, and we're trying to create a safe, welcoming space for them. So with that, I invite anybody who would like to say something that's on their mind, invite you to the podium. Hi there, it's good to see you.
Mayor Piana and council, thank you. My name is Billy Horton, and resident at 473 West Camborne. I'm a licensed psychologist and also a psychedelic and entheogenic plant advocate. And along with my colleague who's here, Kelsey Taylor, we've sort of co-led for just over the last year, Decriminalize Nature Ferndale, a branch represented nationally and is also here in Michigan. And tonight I just wanted to express deep gratitude. I'm sorry Councilmember Brunner James isn't here. Just deep gratitude for consideration and support of the resolutions for entheogenic plant practices. When we began, I also want to say thank you to Alex Lenko, a council member from Pleasant Ridge, who served as sort of a consultant to us and recommended that I meet with Charlie Cavell. And so I want to give props to Charlie, who very quickly responded to my email, had coffee, and was wonderful. And I hope he continues to run for political offices further up on the agenda, because he's a wonderful man. And then I wanted to give props to Councilmember Brunner James and her assistance through this process. There's been dialogue back and forth, and she's just been really, really helpful in sponsoring this. Thank you as well for putting it on the consent agenda in support. And just want to continue to emphasize the importance of psychedelic and entheogenic plants and the work that's going on, the research and the science that is supporting it for psychological and for physical wellness, what's happening. Also for many with religious and spiritual practices. There's just numerous things that are happening that are being supported, and just thank you for that. Also wanted to make myself available to Chief Emmy and Officer Jill. If there's any concerns about the resolutions or any way we could be helpful, we're here. Wanting to work with the community. And Kelsey and myself will be continuing now as a result of this to further educate the community in safe practices and also in harmful practices, and want to be helpful to the community of Ferndale. So I'm just really, really grateful for all of you and just being supportive of what is something that I think is going to change a lot of things in the world, especially in America with tribalism, and just support the practices of using them in a safe, ceremonial, clinical way in furthering your own wellness. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy. Hello, good
Evening.
evening.
To this honorable body, City of Ferndale. My name is Christopher Johnson, and I am the district liaison for Senator Mallory McMorrow. She sends her greetings to you all. I'm just here to introduce myself to you and let you know that we are here for the City of Ferndale, and that she's working hard in Lansing. One of the things she's been working on, and we've heard a lot, was about the gun violence, and she is actively working to help pass some common sense gun laws, which is something that a lot of people find it really, really close and dear now. Some of the other things that she's worked on in the past was defending reproductive rights and supporting families, protecting the water and climate change, and creating economic opportunities for everyone. So our office is available. I've left some flyers in the back, and I think I have actually sent an email to each and every one of you. So feel free to give me a call, give our office a call, and we are here for you.
Thank you very much for being here. Please give the senator our regards.
Good evening.
Hi, Prasad.
Hello. I was here last council meeting, and I spoke up and endorsed the ordinance that was passed about the police advisory and police review and advisory board, and I'm grateful that it passed. I'm here today to talk about the flock safety contract and ask City Council and City Government to follow the principles laid out in the 2020 anti-racism resolution as well as in the recently passed ordinance before approving any such contract. I attended both community fora and also have spoken at the last meeting and in other venues about the flock safety contract. I think it's important for us to conduct a racial impact assessment of the proposed contract. It's very important to conduct a review of the multi-jurisdictional contracts and agreements that will be required for the flock safety contract to be successful. We should conduct a privacy impact assessment that addresses the human rights and privacy concerns that are outlined in Pillar 3, Technology and Social Media, of the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. We have not heard from, but we should hear, expert perspectives from organizations such as the ACLU, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, on the consequences for civil liberties and constitutional rights. In particular, I would say that the draft policy that was presented at the last community forum had no language related to the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizures. In particular, there was language that said that probable cause and reasonable cause and probable suspicion standards would not apply to ALPRs. I may be wrong in the way I read it, but that's how I understood that. Our existing ordinance does not place standards or statutory safeguards for the use of that ALPR data. The existing ordinance and surveillance cameras does not even consider the fact that that what we have are images, not video recordings, which is what that ordinance talks about. In my conversations with Chief Emmy, I know he wants to write and the PD wants to write, particularly because the burden of any mistakes will fall disproportionately on the PD itself and would reflect poorly on this community. But I also want us to understand that at the end of every successful hit on an ALPR data lies an encounter between police and an individual. And as we know in this country and the long history of this country, those kinds of encounters have the probability of going really badly, including in the death of citizens. And as we know from the Tyree Nichols case, the fact that there were body cameras and street-level cameras did not stop the Scorpion unit in Memphis from doing what they did. We can do it right. We have a way to do it right. And I know you would appreciate having this email, but I did print out
Got
copies.
extra copies?
I got 10 copies of an act put forward by the ACLU, which worked with Detroit City Council and Councilwoman Mary Sheffield. So I want to pass this along to you.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing more to our
Sure.
hand them out. Hi, Donnie. Welcome.
Good evening, City Council. I'm here for something less exciting than entheogenic substances. I'm here for the Civil Service Board. I am the chair of the Ferndale Civil Service Board, and I am here to speak in favor of the charter amendment dissolving the Civil Service Board. It is a body that is not, as the resolution states, applicable to the current human resources management processes of the city. It reflects a time from the 40s and 50s. In fact, the current civil service rules were drafted in the 50s. So I represent the 3 members of the board, myself included, and speak in favor of this body adopting this and moving this to charter amendment to the ballot in November. And look forward to working with you in any way needed in that respect.
Thank you so much. All right, is there anybody else tonight who'd like to make comment? All right, seeing that, I'm gonna close call to audience, and we are gonna move on to the public hearing. We only have one tonight, and it is 6A, consideration of the special land use application for 915 East Drayton. And as always, we have 4 steps to a public hearing. We have a staff presentation, that also includes applicant comments if they so wish to make a comment. Then we go to city council, or we go to public comment from the audience. And then we go to city council questions for fact finding from staff, and then motion and debate to talk about that decision making. All right, and we have Kyle Bryce with our planning manager, and why don't you take it away?
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. So on the docket for tonight, we do have the special land use request for 915 East Drayton. I prepared a few slides. So this project is located in our M1 light industrial zoning district. This is a light industrial district bound roughly by the train tracks, Woodward Heights and Hilton. Specifically, the site is located on the northeast corner of Drayton and Burdett. You might know it as the former Ferndale Electric location. It was recently bought by the current applicant. The applicant is proposing a mixed-use catering business and banquet hall. So the catering business portion is permitted by right. So that includes a catering kitchen, a training area, an R&B kitchen, and some accessory office space. They are also proposing a banquet hall, which is why we're here tonight. So the banquet hall is permitted in the zoning district only with a special land use. They propose to use the banquet hall only at off-business hours, so nights and weekends, and they also propose to utilize a valet system. I'll pull up some drawings later on that are more zoomed in, but just to get a brief sense, we do have the building here. There are 2 floors to it. North is to the east. So the southern portion of the building would be used for the permitted catering business, the kitchens and the office and such on the second floor. And then on the north side, we do have the banquet area. So they do have a few different banquet spaces that all work in harmony together. And we have some pictures and renderings later. For the site plan, it was conditionally approved by the Planning Commission earlier this month. In terms of exterior modifications, they're not planning any major expansions or significant changes to the building, except for adding a few windows on the north side. What they are proposing is the removal of a storage building on the northeast corner of the site. You can see the bubbled area here in the top right. They have a storage building in the southeast, and that's to remain, but that gives you an idea of what they're removing in order to provide additional parking. They are proposing an accessible route to the building entrance, which they currently lack. Unfortunately, the industrial area is a little bit spotty with sidewalks. It has some gaps. Some properties don't have them at all. Luckily, Burdett does have a fully ADA accessible sidewalk on its west side, so across the street. So someone coming from Woodward Heights is able to walk down Burdett, cross the street, and now they can have an accessible route directly to the building. They're also proposing a canopy along the front of the building, which is to be used in tandem with their valet system. They have an exterior patio on the north side. They are implementing all of our ADA, EV charging, and bicycle parking requirements. And they are increasing their landscaping. So there's not much out there right now, but they are proposing to add a number of trees, hedgerows for screening from the parking lot, some parking lot trees in the rear as well. They are also installing a sidewalk completely along Drayton, which I think is a great step in addressing some of our sidewalk gaps. So the Planning Commission conditionally approved this site plan. It's dependent on the special land use approval tonight, but they also did unanimously vote to recommend approval of the special land use component. So when we review special land uses, we look for nuisances or other types of concerns. Some of the biggest ones are generally noise and parking issues. In terms of noise, I mean, this building is located well within the industrial district. I think it's surrounded in an area that has manufacturing even 24/7. It's over 400 feet from the closest possible residential, and they're not going to be going all night. I can let the owners speak to the hours of operation. But the parking certainly was something to think about. They have a daytime parking requirement of only 14. A nighttime for the banquet hall is only 104. The Planning Commission approved the parking reduction request to bring it down to essentially, they're only on the hook for their nighttime parking for that 104. They have 76 on site, and the remaining spaces are to be secured through parking agreements with nearby properties. This is permitted in our zoning ordinance. I know other properties have done this. Ultimately, these are going to be reviewed by our attorney and present it to City Council for final approval. We did include this as a condition of the special land use. We do have the drawings here. I'm happy to bring up the applicant to take any questions. Here's a better view of the first floor. Again, north is to the east. So on the left or the south side, we do have all the catering businesses. There's a two-story lobby that runs east-west down the center of the building. We do have a pre-function space, bar, banquet hall for the banquet hall portion. There's a small mezzanine that only takes up a portion of the second floor. And there's some second floor office accessory space for the catering. In terms of elevations, not much are changing, except they're adding some windows in the canopy. And we do have some renderings here of the space. So these are looking north. Here's an example of the pre-function space. Here's an example of the exterior patio, which is screened. And then last, we do have a view, again, looking north of the banquet hall itself. So we do have the stairs that go up, and beyond this building to the left is another mezzanine space for the banquet hall. So at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant up to say a few words.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm Patrick Van Lin, 915 East Drayton. And my first time doing this, so bear with me a little bit. Excuse me. Everyone else has been so eloquent in everything they said. I feel like I'm going to ramble on here, so stop me at any point. And love to answer any questions you have. Maybe start with a little bit about our core business and why we've desired to go this route with the banquet hall component. We are a fresh sushi company. We put fresh programs into grocery stores, hospitals, and universities. Some large corporate facilities. Started in 2011 in Royal Oak, and we're very excited when we found the building at 915, as we are looking for a world headquarters and something we can do to expand our business and what we can do for the community. We are very lucky in finding this particular building, and initially we had thought, hey, with our background, maybe we could do a food hall. That did not go over very well, and thank goodness it didn't. I thought the feedback we got was fantastic for that, and we listened to it, came back with a much better idea that is a better natural extension of what we were already doing. So we're very, very excited about the possibility of having a banquet hall. We do a fair amount of catering already. We're very passionate about food, passionate about building and being a part of Ferndale, and think that it's going to provide us with a phenomenal use of that space in conjunction with our core capabilities. Answer any questions for you guys?
I don't have any. Does anybody else have any?
If I may, through the chair, did I hear, I don't know if I heard, but did I hear that there was less expectation of use of the banquet hall during the day as opposed to the night in terms of parking? Did I hear you say that, Kyle?
That would be correct.
Oh, because I was looking at that place. It's so beautiful. I would expect it'd be used during the day for events as well.
Our core business is, that's going to take the primary focus of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And we just, in our market research, there's not a lot of call for it during the day, during the week. Now, Saturday, and primarily Saturdays and some Sundays, I'm sure that we'll do weddings or other events. So Saturday, we think, is going to be our biggest day. But Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday, and some Sundays are going to be the busiest times for the hall.
All right, thank you for your comments and your presentation. I'm going to move on to the public hearing, though.
Good.
All right, thank you, Patrick. All right, so now moving on to step 2, which is the public comment portion. So I'm going to open up public comment on this hearing at 7:47. Are there any anybody in the audience who would like to make a comment on this special land use request tonight? All right, going once. All right, I am now closing public comment at 7:47 and moving on to council to ask some questions of Kyle and/or Patrick. Are there any more questions about this item? I'm going to open it up. I'm going to welcome Councilman Polika. He is our representative on the Planning Commission to make some comments first.
Thank you, Mayor. As the applicant mentioned, it came to the Planning Commission a couple of times with some variations, and all the suggestions that we made, the applicant took into consideration in this final plan. And basically, we all thought that this is a great use of the property, given that it is predominantly going to be a nighttime and weekend place that is pretty much in the heart of our industrial area. It's not going to be loud, disturbing of residential communities. And it'll serve the additional parking requirement will not interfere with the daytime industrial business. So there's opportunity for them to use and contract with surrounding properties to obtain the necessary parking. So parking is not an issue. And there is a valet service that's like 2 blocks over, a block over, that they're going to be utilizing their service. So here's another opportunity for a Ferndale business to support another Ferndale business. So yeah, we really think it's a great use of the property and a great plan moving forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions of fact for Kyle? All right, well, we would need a motion to proceed.
I move in the matter of 915 East Drayton Street, Sidwell number 25-27-433-008, after a public hearing was held as set for this date and place. The City Council approved the special land use application based on plans dated January 27, 2023, with the following findings and conditions within the packet.
Moved by Polika and supported by Mikulski. Any final comments?
Best of luck.
I just want to say I think it's a great project too, and I know that folks have been looking for a banquet hall, a larger banquet hall in Ferndale, so I have a feeling your daytime use is going to be more than you think. So with that, we need a roll call.
Polika,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Leaks May,
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. And your item is approved unanimously, so good luck on your construction. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right, I'm moving on to the consent agenda, and I'm going to read all the items in their entirety, and then the council can choose how they would like to move forward. All right, 7A, approval of the February 13th, 2023 meeting minutes. 7B, no mow May resolution consideration presented by the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission. 7C, approval of ContraPest pilot program at DPW and other municipal properties by Rose Pest Solutions in the amount of $4,140. 7D, approval of special event permit for the 105th Memorial Day Parade to be held on Monday, May 29th, 2023. 7E, approval and acceptance of Parkdale Townhomes, 427 Allen, storm drain easement. 7F, consideration of resolution of support for ethniogenic, is that right? Ethniogenic plant practices. 7G, receipt of fiscal year 23 second quarter budget adjustment. 7H, approval to purchase replacement brush chipper from Bandit Industries in the amount of $64,052, and the expense to be charged to the Sanitation Fund Capital Outlay Vehicles account number 226-000-977.5. 7I, approval to amend the City of Ferndale Special Events Ordinance. 7J, approval of the annual Smart Specialized Services third-party contract for fiscal year 2023, and authorization for the city manager to sign the agreement. 7K, approval of special event permit for Mezcal Cinco de Mayo Festival to be held May 5th through 6th, 2023. 7L, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the finance director and subject to review by the council finance committee. What is the wishes of council?
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Leaks May and supported by Polika.
Leaks May,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Piana.
Yes, and that item, consent agenda, is approved unanimously. All right. Thank you for your patience with the council body getting that done. All right. Next up is the regular agenda, and we have 2 items tonight, and the first one is 8A, approval to sign contract 235004 with Michigan Department of Transportation for the West 9 Mile Resurfacing Project. And welcome, Dan, from DPW.
Hi, good evening tonight, Mayor and Council. Tonight on the agenda, we have the approval to sign contract with Michigan Department of Transportation for the West 9 Mile project. This is due to the grant funding we are receiving, the federal funding we're receiving to do this project. So as you may recall, similar to the Woodward project, we were required to enter into an agreement with MDOT as part of the process prior to actually receiving bids for the actual work. So what we're doing on West 9 Mile is a resurfacing project from Pinecrest to the city limits in our border with Oak Park. This is a little bit different than our normal projects because Oak Park was also planning to resurface 9 Mile from Ferndale city limits down past Coolidge in the same year. So what we did was, in order to best achieve construction staging, traffic control plans, and so on, is we partnered together. Technically, they are 2 separate jobs under one larger job number, and we are out to bid right now for this project. So traditionally, if the cost estimate for these projects come in at 110% of the engineer's cost estimates, the state will move forward with awarding those bids. So the project's similar to some of the other projects we've done on our major roads. You know, it's asphalt resurfacing, curb and gutter work, crosswalk improvements. The biggest improvement for this project will come at the Central and West 9 Mile crosswalk. That is not very pedestrian friendly as it stands right now. You know, there's not crosswalks that actually go across West 9 Mile, so we will be improving that area, actually installing some crosswalks, improving the pavement markings and so on to let drivers know that that actually is a crosswalk there. So we're hoping that, you know, bids come back favorably by the end of the month. You know, sometime in April, we'll be bringing forth that actual recommendation of that bid award for that project. Overall, we're estimating that the cost of the project is $775,000. Of that, that's not covered by federal funds. The city's share out of pocket for that project is $130,000 is what we're estimating right now. And that's something that we budgeted for the past few years. So we are looking forward to redoing that section of road. And at this time, what we need to do is kind of sign our contract documents with the state of Michigan in regards to the actual project itself and spending those federal dollars. And then after the fact, you know, we will come back with approval of the actual bid award in addition to an agreement, interlocal agreement between us and the city of Oak Park as it relates to the construction engineering and stuff like that for this project. Since Oak Park is doing the majority of the work, they will take the lead on the construction management side of things as it relates to inspection and contract documents and stuff like that as we move through the actual construction phase of the project. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Are there questions from council?
If I may, through the chair, the crosswalks that you're speaking of, would they be the ones similar to the one that's right in front of, on 9 Mile in front of the CVS by the on the west side, the CVS on the west side?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be similar to that. We will actually have a better one. Yeah, that's probably pretty good because we will be putting in the pavement markings. You will actually have the sidewalk ramps going into the road versus now where, you know, it's a full-on curb. The only actual crosswalks there are crossing over Central and not at 9 Mile. The stop signs will be similar to what you see right now. We did remove the overhead flasher that was there and installed the solar flashers on the actual stop signs. But in addition to that, we will be installing pedestals and the crosswalk signs and flashers like we have elsewhere around town. That will, you know, as someone comes to actually cross in 9 Mile, you know, you press the button, the crosswalk flashers will come on, just to alert drivers knowing that, you know, look out ahead, we got a pedestrian crossing.
I do have a question about those flashers. And maybe it's me, but maybe I just need my glasses. I don't know if my eyes checked, but it seems like during the day, when I'm coming up on those flashers, it's like I don't even notice them until I'm like, you know, unless somebody's like kind of right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's hard to see those. I don't know if that's something that can be, or I don't know, worked with, because it's hard to see during night, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But during the day, especially sunny days, it's really difficult.
Yeah, no, I do understand what you're saying. During the day, the lighting will almost blend in with the signage, with how bright and reflective those are. You know, it's definitely something we can look at. Maybe it's just larger lighting that we need to put on them or something like that. But I think it's something that we could take a look at as we move forward with the project.
May I go a step further on that and suggest that the city look at NACTO guidelines to see what recommendations they have for improving those? Because people aren't stopping when I use them. People just don't stop, even when they're flashing. The pedestrian basically has to step out in the road to signal for the car to stop rather than the flashing yellow to have the car stop. So I would be interested in seeing what other options there could be. I've seen stop signs, flashing stop signs that turn on red when the pedestrian hits it. I don't know if that would be a better option or not, but I encourage staff to explore that from NACTO or other, since so many street design things are rapidly changing still.
Mm-hmm.
And the federal government is looking at these types of traffic control devices and updating manuals that promote safety. And I had another question too. When was the last time this section of the road was done? I couldn't recall when it was updated because it has bike lane. It has the painted bike lanes without the bollards or delineators.
The island installation and the updated pavement markings, I want to say that was 2019,
Okay.
possibly 2018. In terms of the actual resurfacing of West 9 Mile, off the top of my head, I know it was well before my time here with the city, just due to the state of the road. But I believe when us in Oak Park updated the pavement markings, the cut-through islands were installed. I think it was 2019.
Okay. So with that in mind, with the list of amenities on the street that are getting touched and upgraded, they're going to be putting back the white stripes and everything back as it currently is, or any of that going to be proved as part of the pavement? We're not removing the unprotected bike lanes.
No, it's going to be it's basically going to look how it is right now.
Okay.
The islands are staying in. We're not removing those. We're keeping the geometry of everything in terms of the bike lanes and stuff like that the same. All those pavement markings are going back down.
Okay.
For the most part, you know, think of this as a larger resurfacing project.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council?
Through the chair. Is there any plans to plant trees?
not as part of this project on West 9 Mile.
I love that you always ask.
Well, we never seem to include it in any project. It's like we ignore it, always.
I think there's two different pathways to getting trees done versus paving. But I do think taking an asset management approach to that, maybe we can come up with something to bring those two paths together, because you've asked before.
Ask all the time.
So, which is why I say I love that you always ask. But maybe if we could take an asset management approach, and what I mean by that is the state is doing that where everybody, aligns their thing, and maybe if we start thinking about planting trees as part of a road project, that's a way to bring them together, rather than we're just gonna plant trees sometime in a tree planting party.
And I like that you mentioned amenities, because, the other thought I had was seating, having benches every so far for people to just stop and, rest if they want to take a walk.
Yep. We'll lob that into the conversation too, but trees is a priority. Can you do that, Dan?
Yeah,
With
we
team?
can take a look at that.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? All right, with that, we need a motion to proceed on 8A.
I move to approve contract 23-5004 with Michigan Department of Transportation for the West 9 Mile resurfacing project for an estimated amount of $130,851. The expense to be charged to Major Roads Capital Outlay account number 202-000-977, and approve the DPW director to sign contract documents as submitted by the DPW director.
Moved by Polika and supported by Mikulski.
Sorry, Mayor.
Yep.
Do we need to include that you review it? You've already reviewed it. Okay. Thank you.
Good question. All right, with that,
Polika.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Piana.
yes. And 8A is approved unanimously.
Thank
And
you.
Moving on to 8B, consideration of the proposed resolution to support ballot language to remove charter language specific to elements of the Civil Service Board, Chapter XXA, Civil Service of the Charter of the City of Ferndale for the November 2023 election. It's a mouthful. And presenting this is our city manager. He has left his seat at the dais and has gone to the podium to present. Y'all can't see it online right now. Thanks, Joe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and viewing public. Here's a dose of NyQuil for you. I will briefly just provide an overview of the Civil Service Charter Amendment presented for Council this evening. So, as the Chair mentioned, this charter was founded really in the mid-40s. Broad overview, it's 3 resident members, 6-year appointments. Those appointments, per the language, are ongoing essentially until filled or abandoned. And the board really at the time was established to promote and preserve merit-based hiring practices, which was a pretty common practice in local government in that era. I would say this era precluded human resources as a profession. And so the board's statement of purpose at the time was broad, but if you look at the repeal language, the purpose defines it to ensure the city acts on fair hiring practices, assists in recruitment, actually, of high integrity and a talented workforce, and then various details around personnel administration. Each of these is now handled by the city's current human resources department, so we've professionalized these services really, which has minimized the role that the board does play in human resources. So the board was interviewed by the city manager's office last year when we were studying this, and the feedback, generally consensus across the board, was that the role is really more rubber stamping now because the city has professional policies and processes, and is subject to collective bargaining agreements and federal and state fair labor practices that have since then replaced the language in the charter. So their meetings are pretty brief, pretty quick, but still required, and very early in the morning. This is our current Human Resources Department. This person right here is our director, Dan Jacey. He's supported by Justin Giordano, our Human Resources Manager and the liaison to the Civil Service Commission. And Emmanuel Robinson, who's our retiree and pension specialist, commits service to all of our retirees, funded through the pension systems primarily. So the charter amendment process, this is just a brief overview of what that process timeline looks like. The timeline is really driven by state requirements and the state's review requirements. So this really is the first step in the process. The city attorney has prepared draft language that summarizes council's resolution for amending the charter through a ballot initiative. If approved, the city attorney will then pare that language down into a format that is appropriate for the Attorney General to review. That would be on the ballot itself. That would be submitted by the city clerk. Then the governor and AG will review it and give feedback. If they approve what we've submitted, ultimately the local election information begins in August, and that's initiated through contact with the Oakland County, through the ballot process, and then through the local publication process. We get our way into November, which is the general election. And that's the proposed date for this ballot amendment. Voters do approve it. Certified copies are filed, and the amendment is technically in effect in December following that. And then it's underway. So with that, really, it's a ballot initiative. This is a city council initiative, not a city government or staff initiative. So the government has a neutral position on the ballot initiative. We're here to provide information, and we will provide information about this initiative on the city's website moving forward. That, Mayor, I lead it to council to have a discussion or questions. I'll return to my seat.
Yeah. If I may take a moment just to give some more background information. As part of the reviewing the process of creating a citizen police advisory and review board, which was commenced in 2020, the goal originally when we started that process of creating the police advisory review board, we started with the civil service board and started with the research question: can the civil service board become this police advisory review board? Can they take on the duties of future, purpose and mission of a new community police advisory review board? After some research for probably a year, it was determined that no, the civil service board was not the right avenue to do that, and that the police advisory review board was better as an ordinance versus a charter created board. Meanwhile, going back even further, I'm not sure when this was put on council's policy, but I think it was after former Mayor Dan Martin, that council has a policy is that we cannot keep creating more boards and commissions without analyzing the impact on staff and budget and council time, and that we needed to remove outdated boards and commissions. So here we are, 3 years later. The Civil Service Board is outdated, no longer relevant, and so this is why it's going on the ballot, supported by council. And this is just a continuation, I would call it modernization and updating of our boards and commissions and making them more relevant over time. As purpose and missions do change, of technology changes, as well as, there never used to be climate action, and now there is. So things change over time. So that's all I wanted to say as sort of a precursor to that. Is there any other comments or questions from council? Unfortunately, Kat Bruner, Council, or Mayor Pro Tem Kat Bruner James is the city council representative to the Civil Service Board, and the one who has been guiding council, I think leading this initiative on behalf of council, since she used to sit on it prior to being elected, and now she's sort of the city council representative to it. So this has been 3 years in the making, lots of thought about removing it. So this is the first step of a long, 8-month process to get to the ballot. And if you were here earlier for the call to audience, the chair of the Civil Service Board, Donnie Johnson, came and said, please remove it. So with that, we need a motion to proceed.
I motion to approve the proposed resolution to support ballot language to remove charter language specific to elements of the Civil Service Board, Chapter XXA, Civil Service, of the Charter of the City of Ferndale for November 2023 election as submitted by the city manager.
Moved by Polika and supported by Leaks May.
Polika,
Yes.
Leaks May,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. Thank you, City Council, for navigating this and getting this over the finish line. And we will be talking more, all of us will be talking more with the voters in November to help get this removed. All right, we're moving on to call to council. And I believe I started, oh, sorry. I'm not on council members. I'm jumping the gun. Handing it over to the city manager for call to council for department head updates. Emmanuel, welcome.
I guess he's our rolling starter. After you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few quick updates. Since I last spoke with you guys, we had our Daddy-Daughter Dance take place on February 18th at Ferndale High School. When I last spoke to you, I said that there were 40 spots remaining, and those spots all filled out. So we ended up having 200 plus dads, daughters, uncles, mothers coming to the dance to enjoy the evening with us. We want to thank everybody that came out for that. We want to thank all of our contributors, including Detroit Cookie Company, Treat Dreams, and Ferndale High School for hosting the event. And that's it for that. The next time that we'll have a special event will be our extravaganza, which, if you don't know, is a series of Easter egg hunts that we do at various parks in the city. This one will take place on April 1st at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock will be at Garbett Park for the little ones. 1:30 will be at Geary Park, and then 2 o'clock will be at Martin Road Park, where we'll have the Easter Bunny. You'll be able to take pictures with them. And at every hunt, there will also be an egg that has a ticket inside, and if you redeem that ticket, you'll be able to bring in and get an Easter basket from us. And Ferndale Elks Lodge will be helping out with Geary Park, so we want to thank them for their contribution to that. And then lastly, I want to make sure that everyone is aware that summer camp will open up registration on April 3rd. On April 3rd, summer camp will open up registration. Registration starts for summer camp on April 3rd. But we will have the information posted for that in mid-March, so you'll be able to at least see the offerings that we'll have, the different field trips and everything that will be going on this summer. But the registration itself will open April 3rd at 9 a.m. if you really want to be specific about it. But yeah, that's it from Parks and Recreation.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Kyle Bryce from CED is up next.
Hello again, Council, Mayor. Just a quick update about the zoning ordinance rewrite RFP. It was posted on Valentine's Day. Very romantic, I know. Out there for about 6 weeks. So we will circle back in late April to bring a recommendation to this body.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. I will give an update on behalf of the Finance Director, Phil. He wants to send a reminder that the last day to pay winter taxes is Tuesday, February 28th, tomorrow. Bill, is there a reason you made me say that? And then a reminder that the Board of Review, which is your opportunity to appeal valuations, is scheduled for March 7th and 8th, and that's in City Council chambers. The Board of Review is a public board appointed through mayor and council. Next, DPW Director Dan Antosik. You don't have any, I just read that. You have nothing to share this evening. I apologize. Our Communications Director, Kara Sokol.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to give a quick update on the community newsletter. It's actually wrapped up as of last week. We are proofreading it this week, and then it's planning to go to print next week. So it seems early to be talking about a lot of these things, but it takes a solid month for us to print and distribute these. So our communications specialist, Riley, has been hard at work at it. Excuse me, glasses off to read the little things, glasses on to see the big things. Okay. So yeah, so we have in this upcoming edition a whole bunch of information. We've reserved spots for No Mow May, so we'll have that all updated in there, as well as information about sustainability, compost program, planned natural landscaping. Hopefully, you know, people who take part in No Mow May or hear about it this year might be interested in furthering the cause and doing some sort of a pollinator garden in their yards. We have, as usual, especially for spring and summer, a whole bunch of information about parks and recreation, parks amenities, upcoming recreation classes and sports programs, things like that. And then we have some updates about some of our CED projects as well, and road work that we've got going on in Woodward this year, so that we can give people some expectations. So while we're wrapping it up right now, residents should expect this be in their mailboxes by mid to late March. And I think that's it.
Through the chair. Yes. Can we make sure that there's information on when to register for summer camp?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's in there.
Since this is the thing we get the most questions about, then forward them on to a manual, yes. Make sure that that is well documented territory.
Chief Emmy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a brief recap. Last Thursday evening, we hosted another community engagement session concerning the Flock Video Detective Bureau investigative tool. It was an in-person event hosted at Incaviso, so thank you to the folks at Incaviso. I also want to thank Joe and Kara. We couldn't have put on that event without you, so thank you. And Michael, wherever you're at, thank you very much. It was, I thought, well attended. Following this was our second bite of the apple in community engagement. There was a lot of good questions, a lot of great conversation. I thought our staff at the police department did a great job explaining how difficult it is to solve crime and trying to explain how this helps while respecting civil liberties. So we look forward to moving forward with that and bringing it to council hopefully next month, perhaps. And if there's any questions, please forward them to the police department. I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have. And again, on that note, I also want to touch on we are hiring at the Ferndale Police Department right now. If you know people looking to break into a career in law enforcement, we are hiring. We currently have one open spot that we're looking to fill, so reach out to Ferndale Jobs and apply online, or reach out to a staff member at the police department, and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I'll offer a brief update. The city manager's office is working with the finance director and through the budget process. Just a reminder, City Council's budget workshop is Saturday, March 18th. It's an unconventional day, but I'll remind that every council meeting until we get to the day. It is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in council chambers. It is a traditional public meeting and is documented as such. I want to shout out to Life Lab Kids. They invited me to tour their facility. It is an amazing facility, and I would strongly encourage anyone interested in those services. It's incredible the different way that they serve that community, and they are, in my view, a beacon for Ferndale. They're a wonderful example of our business community. So I want to say thank you to Life Lab Kids for your time today. It was a wonderful tour. And then I want to credit the excellent work of our police department, fire department, and DPW in their response to the storm last week. Fire department specifically was working quite tirelessly throughout the night. I will not go into details, though, because I will use that as a segue to Chief Robinson, if you can give us an update from the department.
It was a very busy night, and we do have a couple lines down calls today, started back up again today. I think the exact number, we ran approximately 120 calls in a 24-hour period. Actually less than a 24-hour period. We ran about 70 weather-related calls throughout the night, 4 non-weather related, and then from 8 a.m. the next morning to about 2:30 in the afternoon, we had already pulled 45 more. We worked hard. I had people divided up, 6 vehicles on the road trying to clear calls. And I'm going to give kudos to the citizens of Ferndale because they were extremely patient. We were trying to get to everybody as fast as we could. And despite having 6 vehicles trying to respond, at one point we had over 20 calls waiting for us to get to. And everybody was amazing. They were very patient. They were thankful when we got there. And everybody did a great job staying safe. And we can't stress that enough. If you don't know, there was one firefighter that was killed in the line of duty during the storm in Pawpaw from a tree that brought down a power line and it contacted him. So out protecting his community, he did not go home. And that just stresses the importance of using diligence, moving around. Our biggest concern and worry for our citizens was the falling limbs and the trees. Because you get outside, you're looking around at what's going on, and you don't realize we had a few of our firefighters, including myself, that were running as limbs were falling over our heads down toward us. Luckily, we had no injuries. There was no injuries in the city. But we were very busy, picked up again a little bit today, but we were ready. So just remind people, if you think there's a down power line or anything, call us. Let us come investigate. Stay away. Don't touch metal chain link fences. Don't let your dogs out in the backyard, any fur babies. If you think there's any hazards back there, let us check it. And watch out for trees. While there's still ice and wind, just use diligence with that and keep everybody safe. But DPW, PD, everybody that night did an amazing job. Communications did a great job helping me push out information. And I think as city as a whole, they were just all around, city departments did a phenomenal job serving the city that night. So for the 24+ hour period. So.
If I may, through the chair, Chief Robinson. So what about for us residents who don't know the difference between a cable line and a power line? It's just, like for instance, the situation going on at my home right now is that there is a heavy tree branch on a line. It's not broken or anything. The line's not hindering anything, but it's there. And I won't let no one will touch it because I didn't know what to do with it. So what should we have done in that situation?
Call us.
Call you.
You know, the best thing to do is we don't want you to go out there and try to figure it out yourself and potentially put yourself in a dangerous situation. Call us. We know how to tell between the difference. And then we can notify whoever needs to be. So if it is a communications line, we can let you know, which can put you at ease to know what's going on so you know it's safe back there. If it's not, if it's a service line come to your home or a primary or secondary electrical wire, then we can get the notification DTE through our system, which, you know, fire department, police, we have a separate reporting system as opposed to the regular call center. But yeah, when in doubt, I don't want anybody to go out there and try to figure it out. Call us, let us come out. We'd be happy to come out and just keep people safe and check, and that way we know.
Thank you.
But we did get one request today for somebody that wanted us to, they knew it was communications line, and they wanted us to come out and inspect it and reattach it to their pole. We do not do that. Just so everybody understands, we come on to the responsible, we don't do any of the repairs, so you gotta call the proper authorities for that, so.
Thank you, Chief, and please convey our gratitude to our first responders. I heard your sirens. I knew you were busy.
We're all done here,
You're
Mayor.
all done? All right, we're going to move on to call to council, and I'll start here on my left with Councilman Polika.
Just want to share my appreciation to the fire department, police department, and DPW for their hard work during the storms. And also mention that I submitted 2 tickets to C-Click Fix on a couple of branches that were down, and within 2 hours, there was a crew out there cleaning up the branches. So, great response. So, that's it.
So, yes, thank you to all who were out, everything that you do. I mean, you constantly put, really, your safety on the line for all the residents of this community. So thank you for everything that you do, and please stay safe. To all of you, police, fire, DPW, all of you. So a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending a Zoom meeting from Jobs Club. And I don't know if you all know the person in charge of Jobs Club. It's Luther Taylor, who's always in the community, always out supporting everyone for everything. And what he was talking about was his learning challenges growing up and how he's learned to adjust and just really just kind of go with the flow, learning that sometimes you have to be open to suggestions and being open to constructive criticisms in order to be better. I think that when I left that Zoom club meeting with him and the couple of other participants, I was really encouraged because it just shows you that you are not, whether you have learning challenges or not, you're not limited to doing something that you love. I mean, he's great at what he does. In fact, I loved it so much, I'm going to promote his next one. His next one is actually this Wednesday. It's the Jobs Club. If you're online social media, then all you have to do is look that up. It's called We Can Teach and Be Taught. It's from 6 to 7, so an hour of your time, if it goes that long. The speaker is going to be a special education teacher and consultant with Detroit Public Schools, Dr. Rochelle Massengill, and I just go out and support Luther. He's always out there supporting us, so please do that. Also, I wanted to give a note of gratitude to the Ferndale Racial Equity Team. We're coming to the close of Black History Month, and you all have done so much great work as far as letting us know and bringing attention to the Black-owned businesses that we have in the community. Some I knew nothing about until I read your post. And the contributions of Black Americans throughout. I mean, these individuals worked for everyone. So I hope in the future, if everyone thinks about Black History Month, it's not just Black History Month for Black Americans, it's Black History Month for everyone, because these individuals contributed to everyone's quality of lives. So with that, I turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. Over to you.
I don't have much tonight, but I did want to thank our fire department and police department and first responders for everything that you did. It was just such a mess, and I really appreciate what you've all done during the ice storm. I also wanted to commend our Ferndale Garden Club. They put on a great event this weekend. I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to go out to the library and see it, but it was very well attended. It was a seed swap. So seed swap, Think Spring, a lot of education about gardening, composting, doing what we can in our community. So thank you to them as well.
Thank you. And I had something I was going to say, and it just walked out of my brain. I just want to say thank you to all of our responders as well, and DPW. I also want to address and ask the city manager, maybe we can get feedback from DTE, our regional manager. We still have people without power in Ferndale. If you look on the outage map, it seems to be more house-specific rather than street-specific. And, you know, driving along 8 Mile last night as I was coming home from Ann Arbor, there were lights out across 8 Mile, indicating that big swaths of neighborhoods were still without power on Detroit and Oak Park side. I know that there's real concern about the DTE rate increase again. There's another 14% rate increase on the one that they already had. And so I just want to let people know that I'm paying attention. And I think we need to be asking questions a little bit more about our energy use, because water rates are going up as well, and so is our energy pricing. So I just want to let you know that I'm paying attention. We have access to our regional manager. I know storms are storms, but it just seems odd that the number of people who are without power is still going on. So with that, that's all I've got tonight, and calling it at, what is it, 8:34. So thank you, everybody, for participating and being here.